AOM, at its roots, is a phenomenal real-time strategy game. In terms of gameplay, it has stood the test of time through every trial and tribulation that has been thrown at it. Let's take a little walk down memory lane, explore what went wrong, why Age of Mythology Extended Edition flopped, and why AOM Retold will not. AOM Extended Edition launched way back in 2014, back when I was first starting university. I was so absolutely hyped because it meant that the AOM that I loved so much was going to get a breath of fresh air and have its chance at being Age of Empires 2 2.0. I'd be lying if I said I remembered all of what happened back then super clearly, but at the very least, I'll go into what I do remember, and perhaps the comments can fill in some of the stuff that I miss. AOM has this really strange history, and I think everyone can point to something different along the road that really hurt AOM's ability to be a game players played for 20 plus years. But where better to start than the start? AOM released in 2002 to critical acclaim. It was by all metrics a huge success for Ensemble Studios. There was a huge $30,000 tournament in the World Cyber Games tournament. They sold 1 million plus copies. Everything was good. 2004 came along and the Titans expansion released. Some RTS elites will come in and say AOM was ruined the moment the Titans was released, pointing to the game-breaking Titan and the casual quality of life tool AutoQ. In reality, this didn't do much to help AOM, but it didn't really hurt AOM that much. Some elite RTS players stopped playing, but most hung around until Age of Empires 3 was released. When a new game comes out, there is this big push from all the surrounding similar RTS games gamers to come and compete and enjoy the game. We saw this with the launch of Age of Empires 4 really clearly, and the result, as always, is that after a period of time, most players return to their beloved game, leaving only those who are going to sink a couple of hundred hours, if not thousands of hours, into the game. So AOM, in around 2006 roughly, about a year after Age of Empires 3's release, was kind of hit with this resurgence of AOM players who played a ton of the game and probably would have continued playing it. However, the biggest roadblock to AOM thus far was actually that it was sold to Ubisoft, and they decided to cut some costs on production or something. I'm not exactly sure, but what ended up happening was that they didn't include a unique CD key on any of the newly purchased AOM Gold Edition games. This meant that if you wanted to jump online, you could be the only player in the entire world with that copy of the game on Ensemble Studios at that point. Otherwise, it would say your CD key is in use. In my opinion, this was really the start of AOM's decline. It meant that from the period of around 2006 to 2011, there was a really tiny portion of new players joining multiplayer, and even more tiny engaging in the competitive community. I'm lucky enough to be one of the few that for some reason had an original copy of Age of Mythology sitting on the shelf. I think I received it back in like 2004 or something, or my brother received it in 2004, I'm not exactly sure. But I didn't actually end up jumping into the online scene until around 2008 or so. So what changed? Well, in 2011 or 2012, I'm not exactly sure, I don't remember too well, but the Ensemble Studios online service for Age of Mythology broke, and we needed to actually go into the game files and edit a certificate or something to actually continue to access it. Obviously, no one did this. I remember doing it and seeing one person online, which was kind of cool and depressing at the same time. However, in a way, this was kind of a blessing in disguise, because it meant that the Ensemble Studios online server players and the Voobly/Game Ranger players needed to join up. Now, if you don't know my background too well in the game, I started on Vanilla, the original Age of Mythology, and I loved playing Vanilla. I couldn't quite get past the differences between the game, and I was sort of stuck to Vanilla for arguably a little too long. Myself and others, including the wonderful man himself, AOL Iron Maiden, headed into the depths of Game Ranger to find some games, and the others from the Titans actually headed over mostly to Voobly. There is still actually a fairly sizable community of Titans players on Game Ranger. So from around 2012 to 2014, AOM finally had its chance to start attracting new players and start building its following like it should have been doing since 2006. And from my memory, it was actually doing really, really well. Small tournaments were going on, the likes of Mr., Magic, Avely, and many other notable top real-time strategy players competed to create some amazing games. Then, AOM Extended Edition was announced. AOM Extended Edition was supposed to unite the platforms. Game Ranger and Voobly were supposed to be left behind, and AOM was supposed to get its chance at a new player base with many people coming in to try it out and hopefully get hooked. Launch came and disaster struck. From all accounts, half the population couldn't even get past the launcher for whatever reason. The code was the definition of spaghetti code, and unfortunately the fact that it was still using old networking and then on top of this running through the Steam servers meant that on top of everything else, lag was at an all-time high. Something at this point to understand is that developers can only develop if their product is being used. And rightfully so, the AOM community was pretty annoyed at the launch and basically refused to join. So not only did we not get the new Age of Mythology we were hoping for, but we also now got a third platform for our community to be split into. The new players would go to Steam, the old players would slowly start quitting Voobly, and AOM was destined to be buried with the people in suits simply thinking it's not a good game. I believe it only took a few months for the Voobly fan balance patches to start coming out as well, which was basically a huge FU to Extended Edition and solidified Voobly as the place to play competitive Age of Mythology. To add insult to injury, Tale of the Dragon was the big follow-up, hoping to inject some life back into Extended Edition. However, while some of the problems of launch were fixed, the main problem of poor performance, networking, and lag was still at the forefront of keeping players from wanting to play. To go into some of the problems of the Chinese Civ quickly, bland artwork, reused models, no identity, just to name a few. But if that's not enough to understand the whole picture, perhaps you can listen to this voice dialogue.
Oh, of course, most generous soldier.
I want to give credit where credit is due. One of AOM's shining beacons of hope, who seriously does not get enough credit, Nakamura. Nakamura created petitions. He was at the forefront of trying to get the developers back in to create some change and fix what we were left with, basically an unusable product. Somewhere along the lines, Forgotten Empires picked up where they left off and brought in patch 2.8. By all rights, right now, Extended Edition is in a pretty decent spot to play, so long as your opponent is within the 150 to 200 ping range. You're going to be able to get some decent games. For people like me living in Australia, I don't really have a chance to find these sorts of games, and the difference between playing a 300 ping game on Voobly versus Extended Edition is night and day. There still remains, however, some serious pathing issues, balance concerns, and the game not behaving in a way that meets expectations. So, what are the lessons learned here? Perhaps if the launch had gone better, Voobly players would have happily joined Extended Edition and we would have had a thriving community on Extended Edition. Perhaps if we toughed it out for a year and complained hard enough, the developers may have fixed the game up for us faster, even straight away. Perhaps the Tale of the Dragon may have had more money to play with, meaning we would have had this beautifully made fifth civilization which no one would have been able to complain about, and it would have just been genuinely awesome. I don't know. With Retold coming, There's one thing I think most competitive AOM players are looking forward to above all else. That is that networking is going to be done well. Pathfinding is going to be brought into the modern era, and the controls will bring a big upside. If you play a game of Age of Empires 4, for example, and then straight after that come back to playing Age of Mythology, you notice the difference immediately. I think AOM Retold is going to be the opportunity Age of Mythology has always deserved and will shine as one of the powerhouse RTS games of the 21st century. The amazing community that has stood by its side and grown through grassroots efforts will continue to grow and hopefully become something we can all enjoy for years to come. If I've missed anything or I've made any errors in this recount, please by all means let me know in the comment section below. This is by no means a thoroughly researched voice essay or whatever you want to call it, and is mostly drawn from my experience and memory, of which is shaky at the best of times. My name's Boit. I'm very much looking forward to Retold. I hope to see you guys there too. If you like this video and want to hear me go into more of Age of Mythology's history, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one.